Generically, not asking about a specific candidate, but generically, Republican or Democrat, who do you prefer? In the new Washington Post ABC poll, registered voters prefer Democrats by 5 percentage points. Which party would do better coping with the nation's problems over the next few years? Again, Democrats by 5. How about who's more trustworthy on the economy? One more time, Democrats by 5 points. How about which party better represents your personal values? Democrats lead Republicans on that question by 6 points. Steve Bannon at Washington Monthly wrote about this weekend, and he totally nailed it. Here's the question. Look at this. Look at what's on the screen right now. If this is how registered voters feel about Democrats versus Republicans, if Democrats are doing so much better than Republicans on these fundamental questions right now, why are Republicans slated to pick up seats in these elections? Because those poll results I just gave you, those are for registered voters, people who could conceivably vote if they wanted to this year. But if you don't just look at registered voters, people who could conceivably vote if they wanted to, if you look instead at people who say they are likely to vote, look at how this turns around. Look, totally opposite. Isn't that amazing? The people who could conceivably vote but don't necessarily know that they will, they prefer Democrats on all those key questions. People who say they are likely to vote like Republicans. The country likes Democrats better, but the people who don't are the ones who are planning to vote. The distance between Democrats winning versus Democrats losing on Tuesday is the distance between your took us on the couch, if you're going to vote for Democrats, and your took us actually making it to the voting booth on Tuesday, if you're going to vote for Democrats. That's the distance. Common wisdom, schmommin wisdom. When you are figuring out what this means for the House and the Senate and the governor's races and what have you, that's essentially the important difference. The Democrats have the voters. It is only a question of whether or not Democrats get the votes. That's what remains to be seen. Joining us now is Washington Post Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, MSNBC contributor, and the author of the new book, Disintegration, The Splintering of Black America, Eugene Robinson. Gene, it's good to see you. Happy Halloween.
Great to see you, Rachel. Happy Halloween. And I love the little kitty cat ears.
Oh, I can put them on again. I can send you some over if you want. Is it good?
It's so you, Rachel. It's just so you.
All right. Gene, is the die cast here, or is there still more work to be done by Democrats?
Well, yes and no. I mean, Democrats can't get a bright idea on Sunday night and have it really make a difference by Tuesday. I mean, so in that sense, the die is cast. But we don't quite know what's going to happen because of the difficulty of figuring out who's just a registered voter and who's actually a likely voter. And if you look at the polls, and the honest pollsters will tell you that it is devilishly difficult to sort that out with any real accuracy, especially in a midterm election when you don't have that one overriding question that everybody's focused on, who's going to be the next president. This election has, to a certain extent, to a great extent, been nationalized, but not totally. So a local issue, a ballot issue, marijuana in California, other issues in other states can drive turnout of one side or the other. Or, it could be a nice day, it could be a lousy day in terms of the weather. There are a lot of variables that really can have an impact. In
terms of Democrats identifying those variables, clearly, I mean, Republican message has been the same from the very beginning. It's a referendum on Obama. It's a referendum on Obama. It's a right track, wrong track referendum on whether or not you like how the country's going right now or whether you don't. And if you don't, you vote against Democrats. They've had a very simple message all along. But at this point, do you think Democrats have to find those motivating factors race by race and state by state?
I do. I think the more localized, especially the House races are, probably the better for Democrats, and that's why so many Democratic candidates have been pointing to their Republican opponents. Now, the Republicans have been cooperating and saying, look at this crazy person I'm running against. You don't want this person to represent you in the House of Representatives. You may not be really happy with or altogether happy with what Democrats have done, but we're trying to put the country on the right track. And again, Rachel, the polls have consistently shown that the Republican Party's approval rating is below that of the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. It's just convincing people not to make a protest vote because they are anxious, impatient, unhappy, and thus perhaps do something that may actually not be, in their self-interest or even in their self-perceived self-interest.
Are there bellwether races for Tuesday night, Gene, or is essentially the only important result on Tuesday night the overall number of which seats swing either direction?
There are some bellwether races. I mean, in general, I think on Tuesday night we're going to be looking at the early results from the eastern, the House races in New York and Pennsylvania, for example. And if we see Democrats, holding more seats than have been predicted, we're going to think Democrats are going to have a good evening. If we see large Democratic losses in those early states, we're going to think that that's probably going to continue. It's probably a wave election. So those are the kinds of things we're going to be looking at.
Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post and MSNBC. I think the cat ears are on their way to you. I think I have arranged for some cat ears to find their way to you. So if they do, they come with my compliments, Gene.
Okay, thank you so much, Rachel.